Hello, and welcome to the webinar for the 2026 Macy Faculty Scholars Program. I'm Peter Goodwin, Chief Operating Officer and Treasurer at the Josiah Macy Jr. Foundation. The purpose of today's webinar is to provide you an opportunity to learn more about the Macy Faculty Scholars Program. Today, we will share with you the vision, the highlights, and information about the program, as well as the application and selection process. Before we begin our presentation, however, I would like to acknowledge the recent passing of the Macy Foundation's beloved president, Dr. Holly Humphrey. Holly was deeply committed to the priorities of the foundation and to the Macy Faculty Scholars community, to the scholars' work, and to their growth as leaders in health professions education. The foundation's board and the staff of the foundation are similarly committed to the program's success. It is a pillar of the foundation's work that we support now and in the years to come. Our agenda today is in two parts. The first is a presentation, including a brief overview of the program, as well as remarks from Dr. Sarah Arter and Dr. Alan Dow, two members of the Macy Faculty Scholars family, who will share a bit about their experience as scholars. The second part and the remainder of the time will be devoted to questions and answers. Thank you to all those who submitted questions in advance. We have tried to incorporate responses to many of these questions into the presentation, and we welcome any additional questions that may come up as you hear from our speakers. At the end of the Q&A time, we will spend our last minute on some details you will need to know in order to submit your online application. This webinar is being recorded. You will be able to view the slides and listen to the presentation and the Q&A portion of the webinar on our website within the next week. For any questions you have during today's presentation, please use the Q&A function on your screen. We will answer as many questions as we can at the end of the prepared remarks. And now let's get started with an overview of the program. As many of you may already know, we have been transitioning to a new focus for the Macy Faculty Scholars Program, a focus that I will describe further in just a moment. However, the core vision for the program remains consistent with the vision we had at the program's inception: to recognize, develop, and nurture the careers of promising future leaders in medical and nursing education. As was true at the program's onset, we seek to make an impact on the lives of promising future leaders in education by providing them with protected time, multiple levels of formal mentoring, and a national network of colleagues who are dedicated to advancing health professions education. Our hope is that by providing these resources, the scholars will create meaningful changes in health professions education at their institutions and at a regional and national level. Ultimately and collectively, the scholars have become part of a national community of leaders and innovators. One important note to highlight: this is a career development award, meaning we just are as interested in the individual as we are in the proposed project. We are interested in candidates for whom the program will have the maximum impact at this point in their career and who have the greatest possibility for future impact in their careers. We are excited about the next generation of Macy Faculty Scholars, which began with the 2023 cohort, Dr. Arter's cohort. You will hear from her in just a few minutes. If you would like to hear from all members of the 2023 cohort of scholars, you can do so by listening to our Vital Voices podcast. Season 3 features interviews with all members of the 2023 cohort. We will also be releasing brief videos from the 2024 scholars in which they share some details about their experiences in the program thus far. Be on the lookout for those videos on our website and on LinkedIn in the next week or two. Listening to these podcasts and watching the video may give you a better sense of what we are looking for in terms of the experience and scholarship of those who are ultimately selected as scholars. We have a special interest in candidates who are relatively early in their careers, those for whom this career development program, the network, and the resources it offers will have a significant impact. I will talk about what we mean when we say early career when we review the eligibility criteria. We are also interested in candidates who represent the breadth of diversity in medicine and nursing, and in the patients and populations we serve, and also in building new relationships with institutions that have not historically submitted candidates to the Macy Faculty Scholars Program. Some of the highlights of the program are the following. We offer salary support capped at $100,000 per year to protect at least 50% of the scholar's time to pursue a mentored project at their home institution. We also offer $25,000 per year to be used for project support and professional development. Scholars are formally paired with a mentor from the National Advisory Committee and a peer mentor from the group of alumni scholars. We go through a process of identifying matches that we think will be appropriate and beneficial, and take into account preferences from the newly elected scholars. Most of our first-year scholars choose to enroll in the Harvard Macy Institute's program for educators in health professions. We pay the tuition costs for one HMI course, but many scholars choose to use some of the professional development funds available to them under the award to attend additional HMI courses. All scholars, whether they are in the 2-year award period or are alumni scholars, are invited to attend the Macy Faculty Scholars Annual Meeting, which many say is their favorite meeting of the year. And finally, scholars will have access to a national network of Macy grantees and programs. Now that you've heard about the program and some of its features, I'd like to turn things over to Dr. Sarah Arter and Dr. Alan Dow, two of our Macy Faculty Scholars alumni. Sarah will finish her award period this summer, whereas Alan, a member of the inaugural scholar cohort, will be able to speak to the impact of the program over a longer period of time. Sarah and Alan, I'd like to invite each of you to take a few minutes to share a bit about your time as a scholar and how the experience affected your careers and lives. Sarah, let's start with you.
Thank you, Peter, for inviting me to share with you today a little bit about my experience with this wonderful opportunity that is the Macy Faculty Scholars Program. I was one of 6 scholars from the 2023 cohort, just like Peter mentioned, so my grant period ends at the end of next month. It went by in the flash of an eye. I also want to note that I do not work at a research-intense university. My Department of Nursing is located on our regional campus of my university, which is located in a rural area of the Midwest. So I highlight this to emphasize what Peter has already mentioned, that the Macy Faculty Scholars Program is truly interested in a broad, diverse range of applicants, geographically speaking, among all of the other things. So since this is a career development award, there have been 2 aspects I have focused on over the last 2 years: the development of my scholarly project, which is part of your proposal, and then also my own professional development. Speaking specifically of my project, it revolves around developing and piloting an educational intervention to support pre-licensure nursing students to navigate ethical dilemmas and reduce stigma while caring for pregnant and parenting individuals who have substance use disorder, which is a particularly pressing community problem where I live. Initially, my project has been focused on the state level, but the goal is to disseminate and continue iterating nationally. Being part of the Macy Faculty Scholars community has created a much easier pathway to national impact through its wide network of health professional education scholars and leaders. Similar to any dissertation, my project definitely has changed since the original proposal, and I think that's a pretty common experience, but very much for the better. Thanks to the regular mentorship and professional development that has been available to me through participation in the Scholars Program. In terms of my professional development plan, that also has changed course, and also for the better, because as being a part of this, you're not just by yourself on an island working on your project and your professional development. You very much are immersed into a community, most closely with your cohort. And maybe we just had an extra special cohort, which I think we did, but it seems to be the case with all cohorts. You become very close with them. But then also the broader network. And so just through networking with all of these people during all of these opportunities, I've learned about other professional development opportunities that actually better aligned with my professional goals and then the goals of my project as well. So throughout the last 2 years, my professional development has ranged from leadership training to taking more of a deep dive into healthcare professional education, and then also some opportunities that were more specific to the methodologies that I used in my project. One of the big questions that I wanted to answer during my grant period related to my project was, how is the best way to measure or assess any change in healthcare professional students' attitudes related to care of pregnant or parenting individuals with substance use disorder? And so as a result, I was able to enroll in the Harvard Macy Institute Systems Thinking and Health Professional Education course. And that has been very instrumental in not only developing the assessment plan for my project, but also more broadly assisting me in changing the curriculum at my own place of employment to better align with competency-based education and the new AACN essentials to better prepare our students for professional practice. So I really got more out of that than I was expecting. So, in summary, two of my biggest impressions from participation in this program so far have been the immense community support and also the learning from others, especially my physician colleagues. The mentorship network through the Macy Faculty Scholars Program has far exceeded my expectations. It was a little intimidating entering a community of powerhouses in the healthcare educator space at first, but very quickly it became apparent that everyone in this community genuinely cares and supports you in your endeavors. So, something else that I want to leave you with is that this is not an opportunity that ends when you complete your grant period. It's more accurate to think of this as an initiation into an incredible community of health professional leaders and scholars. So, I wish the best of luck to all of you as you develop your proposals. And thank you so much for your time learning about this incredible program.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Scholars webinar, and congratulations on thinking about this program. If you're on this webinar, it means you're doing wonderful things, and I know from experience that the foundation wishes it could even fund more people to be part of this program. I was part of the original cohort of scholars back in 2011, and it's been a tremendous transformative experience for me. And I hope all of you get a chance to participate in something like this through your career. The program, as Sarah and Peter mentioned, it's interested in people who are looking to change health professions education with their institutions as a laboratory in which to do that, and then to develop scholarship and influence the national and international dialogue. And I think looking at my peers that have been through the program, I think it's certainly true that it's done that. It's one of these things that just catalyzes your career and changes it in a different way than any other program that's out there. And so I am just amazed at how it has evolved my career and the career of the peers that I've had as we went through the program. One of the things that is key about this program that Sarah mentioned and Peter talked about was the connections that you build, certainly within your cohort, but then within the broader scholar family, as well as the national mentorship. As many of you who are on this call know, that doing this work of innovation in any space, and certainly in health professions education, can be lonely. Many of us that are scholars are from smaller, less named institutions, and being able to be part of that community of people that have the passion and the talent and the commitment to try to tackle these problems, and do that with a group of people that can help us grow in that way is just tremendous. You know, Sarah's work in pregnancy and opiate use disorder is just an example of the types of programs. My program, my project, focused on developing interprofessional education and a center for interprofessional education. And the scholar funding for 2 years just it was the catalyst for expanding what we were doing and growing that much more quickly, such that we were able to accomplish a lot of things. Now, I'll say the work continues, and most of us joke that our scholar projects are never over. I'm in year 14 of mine and still working on it. So, but yeah, that's part of the career transformation that you go through is being involved in that. The other part of being a scholar is that because of the personal connections that you develop, you really do develop lifelong friendships with peers that are doing this work in other places. So I'm currently in Omaha, Nebraska at the Collaborating Across Borders conference, which is one of the big interprofessional education conferences of the year. And I just had dinner with 6 other scholars last night to talk about our work and what we're doing. And we're scattered across the country, but the work that we're doing as physicians and nurses and a pharmacist is still changing the institutions that we're at as we grow through things. So the program has just been a tremendous experience. I feel so fortunate to have been a part of it, and I look forward to success for all of you and all the work that you're doing. I'll throw it back over to Peter now.
Thank you so much, Sarah and Alan. Let's now consider the eligibility criteria for the program. Applicants must be a doctorally prepared faculty member at the sponsoring School of Medicine or Nursing. The candidate is not required to be a physician or a nurse, but the candidate's faculty appointment must be within a School of Medicine or a School of Nursing. The candidate should be an early career, benefits eligible faculty member. We envision early career to mean roughly 3 to 8 years of experience. But please note, this range is an estimate and not an absolute. We will still consider candidates outside of this range. Candidates must be nominated by the dean of their medical school or their nursing school. And each nursing or medical school can nominate only one candidate. However, a university that has both a medical school and a nursing school can nominate one candidate from each school. Please note, a nursing or medical school with a first-year Macy faculty scholar is precluded from nominating a candidate. Applicants must have an identified senior faculty member who will serve as their mentor and provide advice on the scholar's project and career development. With respect to the education project, we are particularly interested in projects that take place in the clinical learning environment and address at least one of the Macy Foundation's 3 priority areas. And those areas are promoting equity, diversity, and belonging, increasing collaboration among future health professionals, and preparing future health professionals to navigate ethical dilemmas. We would also like to see a demonstration of appropriate institutional support for the project. Finally, applicants must be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. The application includes multiple parts. The first is the candidate's statement of career objectives and personal goals for this program. We are eager to know about you as a person. What experiences led you to this point? Your career goals. We also ask you to provide a description of the education project to be undertaken. The application itself outlines the specific areas we are most interested in. You must provide a nominating letter from the dean of the School of Nursing or School of Medicine. And we will require letters of support from the candidate's proposed mentor, from the candidate's department chair, and from one other senior faculty member familiar with the candidate's work. In addition, a bio sketch for the candidate and the proposed mentor. These forms are available for download in the application and are part of the application packet. Following factors will be considered in the selection process. Evidence that the candidate is viewed by learners as an effective educator. Whether the candidate is in a position to directly influence learners in the local environment. Evidence of an ability to turn daily work into scholarship that has been disseminated. The merit of the proposed project and the likelihood that it will influence national trends in health professions education and ultimately improve the health of the public. Evidence of a strong mentor and of institutional support, and the potential to become a national leader in health professions education. Senior staff at the Macy Foundation will review all complete applications, and semifinalists will then be selected. We typically receive around 70 to 80 applications each year. A national advisory committee will review applications of the semifinalists, and then finalists will be selected by the National Advisory Committee. On or around January 8th of 2026, all of the applicants will be notified of their application status and whether they have been selected as a finalist. The National Advisory Committee and senior Macy Foundation staff will interview all finalists via video conference on January 28th and 29th, 2026. And selected scholars will be notified by the end of January 2026. Appointments will then begin July 1, 2026. Applications are due Friday, August 1st by midnight Eastern Time. On or around January 8th, 2026, all applicants will be notified that either they are a finalist or that they have not been selected. In late January, finalists will interview with the National Advisory Committee and senior staff via video conference. Shortly after the interviews, finalists will be notified whether or not they are selected. A kickoff meeting for the new scholars will take place on April 20 and 21 in St. Louis, Missouri, and the annual Macy Faculty Scholars meeting will immediately follow. Scholars' formal appointments again begin July 1, 2026. We will now move to the Q&A portion of the webinar. Please enter any questions you have about the Macy Faculty Scholars Program in the Q&A function on your screen. Dana Levinson, the Foundation's Chief Program Officer, will be reading your questions aloud for us to discuss. So I invite Dana to join us now. Staff are also working behind the scenes to type answers directly into the Q&A, and we will attempt to answer as many questions as we can in the time that remains.
Thank you, Peter, and welcome to all who have joined us on this webinar. Let's kick off with a question about mentoring. The application says that someone outside the home institution can be chosen as a mentor. Can you please talk about what the expectations are for this local mentoring relationship?
Thank you, Dana. I'll start and invite Sarah and Alan if they also want to add from their experiences. I think the expectations are, one, that this be an individual who has an interest in your career and in your career development, number one. That they also are in a position to influence your career and career development at either your home institution or in the project area that you're going to work at nationally. They should be someone who knows you well and whom you know well. And they should be someone who provides to you a trusted place where you can share the barriers, the challenges, and the successes that you're experiencing now and in the future as you continue to grow yourself as a health professions educator. Sarah, Alan, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's going to look a little bit different based on your project. I felt very fortunate. I was able to use who was the chair of my department at the time as my local mentor. It just worked out that there was some overlap in patient populations of interest. And so she was very instrumental in helping when I was in the part of my study where I was trying to interview moms to inform the development of my educational intervention. So professionally, she had an interest, and also personally, with our research, she had an interest. She's so wonderful, though, that within the span of 2 years, she is now the president of another university. But she has still stayed in touch. We have continued to have regular meetings, not as regular as when she was still there, but she has still very much been in touch. And the cool thing is that the local mentor actually gets to be invited. I can't remember, I think it's close to the end of the first year. Local mentors are invited to the annual meeting and are very much a part of the process as well.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I would think about what you want to do and what your strengths are, and also the strengths and needs of your project. I ended up having two mentors. One was sort of my primary mentor for my application, but one was our sort of VP of Health Sciences, which helped with all the organizational barriers in doing interprofessional education. And then one was more of a scholar to help me with writing and disseminating. And I met with the one who helped with scholarship probably every week, and the one who was the VP of Health Sciences monthly. And so I think you have to think about those relationships and who can be part of your team. And, it starts as a team of two, but it may go 3, 4 to help complement what you want to do.
Thank you, everyone. A next question. Should projects focus on just one of the 3 main Macy priorities, or more than one such priority?
Yes, thanks, Dana. My advice would be to focus on a single priority, because that will allow you to have a stronger proposal. It is likely that it may bleed into some of the other areas of the foundation's priorities, but I would choose a single priority if you're going to choose one to focus on in submitting your application.
Thank you. Here's the next question. Someone has asked if it is acceptable for us as a scholar to partner with another institution.
Absolutely. One of the goals in your project is that you be able to implement it and have success in your home institution, where we anticipate you will have the most support. But also, we are hopeful that you will be able to achieve some dissemination and spread beyond the boundaries of your institution, whether it be regional or national. So partnering with another institution, whether it's a neighboring institution or an institution that might be another location outside of your area, would certainly be a strength in terms of speaking to the ability of your project and your ability to achieve visibility beyond just your home institution.
I'd like to ask the next question and then maybe expand it a little bit, if I could. One of our participants has asked if there is an institutional match required. And beyond that question, I hope that our speakers can talk about how institutional support can best be conveyed or expressed in the application.
Well, let me start by saying that there is not a matching requirement for this grant program, for this award program. However, one of my earlier comments speaking to the strengths of what makes a good application is the ability to obtain institutional support. Not just the dollars that it conveys, but really the commitment that the institution is informing us of in you and your career, and also in the project that you're proposing. So institutional support goes a long way to strengthening your proposal to the reviewers, and also in increasing the probability of success as well. should you get the award.
Next question.
Sarah,
Oh.
Dana, did we get to that full question? I want to make sure.
Yes, thank you, Peter.
Okay, great, thank you.
Next question. Does the project have to be an intervention, or can it be a formative research project to develop an implementation framework and toolkit for implementation?
Sarah or Alan, do you want to take a stab at that?
I can take a stab. So the focus of the program has always been educational interventions and scholarship. So in general, the funded projects have been intervention projects or things that are working towards an intervention. That being said, it's 2 years, and so it's not like you can finish things, but a lot of times people are doing pilot work as they're doing it. So this is not a do a needs assessment and collect some baseline data over 2 years type of thing that you might have for, say, looking towards an NIH grant.
Thank you. You've mentioned that the program is, that the project ideally is in the clinical areas. However, would the project about research education in nursing and medicine related to the priority areas be considered, or does it have to be clinically related education?
Sarah, I'll start and ask you to maybe chime in as well. We're looking for projects that primarily are in the clinical learning environment, but if it's a research project that is taking place in the clinical learning environment, that's okay, if I'm understanding the question.
Yeah, I'm trying to think through all the different topics of the different projects that I've learned about over the last 2 years. But even though for my project, I do have a population, like a clinical population that I'm ultimately trying to improve their health, but it's through the education of pre-licensure nursing students. And I do feel like there are people with projects that are more focused on changing curriculum. But so it's not quite as clinically focused, but if you look at the priority areas of the Macy Faculty Scholars Program, at some point, there's usually some sort of implication for a clinical population. Because, we're not just doing it just for the sake of generating new knowledge. There should be some sort of outcome eventually, even if it's not part of your project, that I would definitely speak to, if that makes sense.
One of our participants has asked to provide additional information about the Macy courses and the broader professional development opportunities offered through the program.
I'd ask, first of all, I would say we have the Harvard Macy Institute relationship that the foundation has had for a number of years. As I indicated earlier in my opening remarks, there is a foundational course that is available to the scholars that the foundation pays directly for. And then there are several other courses that HMI, Harvard Macy Institute, offers for educators as they continue to mature in their careers. And those are also available to the scholars, and we provide professional development funds in the award for those. The other opportunities are through the mentoring network, both the peer mentors that will be assigned to the scholar, as well as the National Advisory Committee, which also serves as mentors to the scholars. There is the gathering of the scholars at the once a year, the annual meeting of the Macy Faculty Scholars. And then there is ultimately the strength of the full network of current scholars and alum scholars who are available as a resource to assist you both in your project and also in your career development.
Can the project focus on an educational intervention outside of the US, such as a medical student global health elective abroad? To clarify, the elective course is offered through a US-based medical school, but occurs both here domestically and abroad.
I think the short answer is yes. The add-on to that is we would also like to see if there's any applicability that could be brought back to the US as well, and applied.
If an applicant has more than one mentor, should each of them submit a letter of support?
Yes, we are very interested in the letters that are provided for the scholar applicant are very important and are reviewed carefully by the review team in the NAC. And so if you do decide to have more than one mentor, it is important to get letters from both of them.
Can the project be related to workforce development and education, such as nursing assistance to RN pathway curriculum?
I would say yes. I would say generally we're more inclusive than exclusive when we think about what projects would be eligible. But I would also take this as a moment to underscore that this is a career development award, and that our interest is in you as an applicant, as a future leader in health professions education. And that we would like the project to be focused on your domain of interest as a faculty member in the School of Medicine or a School of Nursing. So to the extent that you are working with them, the workforce, this level of workforce through that would be okay. But primarily think about it as within your domain of interest and responsibilities within your home institution.
Thank you, Peter. As a follow-up to that, can you provide some feedback or guidance on crafting an effective personal statement? What advice would you have for an applicant about the preparation of this important component of the application?
I will start, and then I'll actually ask Sarah and Alan to offer their perspectives as well. I will tell you that the personal statement is quite important. It is the opening of the door for the reader to understand who you are, where you've come from, where you are today, and where you are going in your career, as well as how your life experiences have influenced the path that you are on and has led you to this point, and has provided you with the impetus to continue forward on your path as a career, as a health professions educator. So to the extent that you can speak to those and tell the story tell your story, that will be very, very helpful.
Yeah, I feel like my advice very much shares the same sentiment. Personally, I think I spent the most time working on my proposal on that personal narrative. You know, I'm not one of the ones that evaluates the proposals, but I felt good about my personal narrative at the time that I submitted my proposal. It was me. And so I took the time to talk about why I was focusing on helping nursing students learn how to navigate ethical dilemmas and hopefully reducing stigma through my own personal experience of first and foremost being a teen mom, and then also from having a number of siblings with special needs and just observing how people interacted with them throughout their lives and what their true capabilities were. And so I think just the more personal that you can get and tie it in with your why is really going to make it most impactful.
Yeah, I agree that the project description is what you're going to do during the 2 years and beyond, and the personal statement is who you are and why you're the person that should be picked to do that work by the foundation. And they're both incredibly important, but I think the personal statement is actually even more important because it the foundation is investing in you as a person, and it's not a restatement of your CV. It's a what are you passionate about, and how are you going to continue to be a leader that's driven by purpose well after the Scholar program is over.
The only of the last bit of advice I would offer on this question is that I would advise the applicant not to immediately jump to your project description. We see many applications where the personal statement is sacrificed because the applicant wants to be able to tell us all about their project, and actually that hurts you as an applicant if you don't take the time to tell us your story.
Thank you, everyone. I've had a number of questions in the Q&A related to what actually early career does mean. And it's in fact tied to experience postdoctoral degree rather than total years of experience. Can we provide some clarification about what a candidate who is in the early career stages might look like, and that variety of what they might look like?
Well, I would describe it as someone who is just out of their terminal degree and is embarked on a path that could be as brief as a year or two. It doesn't, we say 3 to 8 as a sort of a general range, but we are seeing applicants increasingly who are recent terminal degrees and only a couple of years on their path, whether it be in medicine or nursing or pharmacy and other professions. Once again, nominated through the School of Medicine, School of Nursing. So we are open to people who are early starting out, but have a vision of what they'd like to become, and have a project that will help them begin to develop a body of work and scholarship around an area of interest for them as well, and also have the support of the institution as evidenced by not only the nomination by the dean, but the mentor and letter of support from other faculty as well. Sarah and Ellen, do you have anything you want to add to that one?
I just add that part of the reason why the definition is challenging is that someone who has done a nursing PhD has already done research training project, hopefully some dissemination, and is more likely to be ready to apply to the Scholar program when they're a year, 2 years, 3 years out of getting that PhD. Whereas a physician, you get your MD and then you're doing residency, maybe fellowship, and then it takes a few years to develop the sort of profile of someone who has the ability to influence and show some dissemination. So the physicians tend to be a little, well, they're definitely further from the MD, and you know, even when you add in residency and fellowship and things like that, they're further along in their careers, you know, chronologically than a lot of times the nursing PhDs are. But you know, we've had a wide variation of folks that have come through the program, but all, you know, I think meet the definition of early career if you think about it in terms of that.
Thank you. As a career development award in the NIH, those applications contain a section that is crafted as subsequent funding plans. Is it an expectation as part of this application to create a plan for subsequent funding?
The short answer is no. That is not a requirement in the application. However, it's a very good question. And if you have early thoughts or early levels of commitment or indications of commitment that the project will continue in some way, then you should put that in. I can tell you that there are applications that we have seen where the letters of support from either the dean or the department chair have said that we are going to continue to fund this work for this applicant even after the 2-year Scholar Award itself. So to me, those are almost bonus points that once again strengthen your application to the foundation.
Thank you, Peter. There has been some detailed discussion of the personal statement component of the application. In relation to the other components of the application, are there key factors to pay attention to while preparing the application?
So I would, well, yes, we try to make the application as brief in terms of the areas of that we're interested in terms of the sections, like the personal statement, the project description, the letters of support, the CV. Around the project description, I think it's important for you to be able to identify and articulate the theoretical framework that you are using that underpins the reasoning of your project. That is always something that reviewers are interested in making sure that your proposal has a sound framework that you are building upon. The letters of support are important and are key because they will reveal to the reviewers how much the writer knows about you. And I will tell you that we see lots of letters that sometimes look like they were not written by the person who's signing them. And it's when you review a lot of these, you get the feeling that they don't really know the person. So the ones that really speak to that they know who you are and what you're working on and how important you are to the department or the institution, those rise to a higher level. And then within your CV, I think it's important to provide evidence of teaching awards if you've been successful, clearly evidence of publications to the extent you have those, and certainly we're interested in publications that are in health professions education related, because they will indicate to the reviewer that you are either a budding educational scholar or already an educational scholar. So those are all aspects of the application that are important. And I honestly would not say that we place an overemphasis on any of them, but just to circle back, the personal statement is the opening of the door to the application. You want to have a welcoming open door as you think about your application.
Thank you, Peter. Would prior receipt of a professional development or career award be considered an advantage or a disadvantage when applying for this opportunity?
I would consider that an advantage. And we do not rule out people who have received other awards. And in fact, we have provided funding to individuals who have achieved other awards from other institutions, including foundations. If anyway, that's it tells us that that you are a person that others also have looked to and have seen as having potential for achieving advancement and in both responsibility and in terms of rank, and ultimately in terms of creating influence.
If a candidate already has protected time for another role in a clerkship or residency or some other administrative function, is the 50% protected time for the Macy Faculty Scholars Program in addition to this protected time?
As long as it's not more than 100% when you total it all up, it can be in addition to, yes.
Who is considered the learner? Can the public be a learner, such as family caregivers?
Yes, but I would circle back to one of the points we made about we're looking to your project to have influence in the clinical learning environment. So to the extent you bring the public, and I guess we can also use the term patients as well into that, that would certainly be we would certainly recognize that and would consider that to be appropriate.
Thank you. I've noticed that one applicant writes, I've noticed that all of the previous cohorts were focused on clinician populations for the intervention. Is this open to PhD or master's level learners and postdoctoral trainees as a part of the intervention population?
Yes. Short answer would be yes, that would be open.
Thank you. What kind of mentorship and support? I know that Alan and Sarah have spoken to this already, but we have a question. What kind of mentorship and support can a scholar expect? What is that experience like?
I'm happy to speak to that first, as I've been going through this for the last 2 years. So you have to identify your local mentor on your proposal. So at the time that you even submit your proposal, you already have a plan in place for, how often and what the purpose of those meetings will be. And certainly there's wiggle room throughout the 2 years of the project, things will change. But that's in place. And then once you're selected as a scholar through the Macy Faculty Scholars Program, you're also assigned to what we call like a near peer mentor. It's a peer mentor. However, some of them are definitely more advanced in their careers compared to where we are, especially this, more early career cohort. And then you are also assigned a National Advisory Committee mentor as well. So the topic of the mentoring meetings and the frequency certainly does change based on the relationship that you forge with your different mentors. I'll tell you that I've used my National Advisory Committee mentorship meetings to really focus more on professional development more than on the project itself. Certainly that's also been a topic, and there have been some tweaks based on that, but I've really used my near peer mentor more for the project and then my National Advisory Committee mentorship for professional development. Especially considering their wealth of connections that they have in their positions. But that's all the formal part of the mentoring. There's also a lot of informal mentoring that happens just through the professional development opportunities and then through your own cohort, which is almost just like bonus mentoring that you get through this. But it is a very tightly woven cloth of support.
Thank you, Sarah. This is our last question as we are approaching the bottom of the hour. I noticed that a lot of projects on the website were with a team, an MD and an RN. Is there one applicant, but there is one applicant for the application, but are they allowed to have a project team? And is it possible for funding to be broken down to support multiple team members?
We very much like seeing projects that involve teams because, as I'm sure many of you know, we don't do anything alone in this world, and certainly not in trying to influence the landscape around health professions education. So certainly we welcome using a team. The second part of the question, which has to do with funding for the team, if I understood that is not something that we put a great emphasis on or really allow much money for. I want to remind you the majority of the funds go to the scholar for their time commitment that protected time. There is a smaller amount for professional development and project support. So within that, that $25,000 per year, we have seen a research assistant time that is used for project support, but that's about the extent of what we will see in terms of the ability to fund the team. I think there's an opportunity here, however, to use that institutional support that also would strengthen your application to show us that the team that's coming together to work with you on your project is receiving its support from other sources. In this case, maybe the institution, or in the event you have other funding available.
Thank you, Peter. That concludes our
Yeah.
Q&A.
Great. Dana, thank you so much for screening through all those and for the staff who was triaging those and answering them as well online. Let me turn to the wrap-up portion of our webinar today with some final comments. We're utilizing an online application for this program. To access the online application, you must first go to our website and click on the Macy Faculty Scholars tab in the navigation bar. From there, you can go to the Apply page. For your convenience, the Scholars URL is displayed on this slide. From there, you can click on the Apply Now button, and that'll direct you to the online application platform. In order to apply, you'll need to register for an account on the application platform. You'll also need to get the tax ID for your school as part of the registration process. Once you've registered and logged in, you may save and return to your application as often as you like prior to submitting it. If you have any questions during the application process, you may email us at info@macyfoundation.org. But before you email us, we encourage you to visit the Macy Faculty Scholars Program website, which has a number of useful resources, including our frequently asked questions. We will continue to update the frequently asked questions throughout the Oakland application period. And finally, as a reminder, by next week, a recording of this session, both the audio portion and the slides, will be available on our website. We hope you will keep in touch with the Macy Foundation for more information about our grants programs and initiatives, podcasts, webinars, and blogs, and of course, the Macy Faculty Scholars Program. Thank you all again for joining us. We hope to receive your applications from many of you this August. Thank you.